Hello and welcome to the second episode of Al Answers. I understand it has been a while since we did anything of this sort, but if you listen to the first episode, when it started, I did say I wasn't feeling well, and soon it started to have its impact. To be honest, it was really bad for a couple of days, and it did get better, and it's much better right now. I delayed my recovery a bit by trying to record a podcast 3 to 4 days back, so that if I had not done that, maybe we would have had this a lot earlier. So yeah, I'm not going to waste more of your time. Let's get straight to the questions. The question that we have today is from Farman Siddiqui. He asks, "Who should be India's number 5 to 8 in ODIs with the ODI World Cup coming up in a year?" It's an interesting question, Farman. That is something I've also debated, discussed a lot in the last 6 months, especially since Dravid has taken over. We have got some bit of a direction regarding how the team is approaching those positions. If you ask me, my preference would be I'd keep KL Rahul at number 5. I think it's something it's debatable. I mean, if you go to if you push him back to opening or keep him at number 5, I'll come back to that. But let's start with KL Rahul at number 5 because there are a lot of uncertainty surrounding that. Let's fix KL at number 5. Six, it will obviously be Hardik Pandya, and if number 5 is KL Rahul, keep in mind that you'll also have to be working with Sanju Samson as the backup for that spot. Say if something happens to KL Rahul, if say KL Rahul cannot deliver, if KL Rahul has problems continuing to deliver in that spot, you'll need a backup for that spot. But the tricky thing now is that with Surya Kumar Yadav playing the way he is, I think he'll also be coming back into the ODI scheme of things. So there is a lot of problems around surrounding this number 5 spot. We'll come back to that later. I did say that before, but I'll have to stick to it firmly from now on. So number 6 is Hardik Pandya. There is no question about this. There is only one player who could do what Hardik can do, and it's his spot. If he goes, then we'll have to suffer. The number 7 is I think it's Ravindra Jadeja. Again, I think there are a lot of talks ahead of this World Cup that India wouldn't miss Jadeja and that Akshar Patel could even be an upgrade on Jadeja. I think we are finding out how silly a lot of those talks were. At some point, you'll have to start giving respect to a player. The image of Ravindra Jadeja for a long time was that he is a utility player, someone who did a bit of that, bit of this. We all know this Sanjay Manjrekar episode, but see, in the last couple of years, he's delivered. And even in the Test cricket, if you take for a while, he has been delivering in India, in outside of India, in overseas, in proper overseas conditions, and he started to deliver in T20s as well, in the IPL as well, and in for India as well, in one day internationals. So when a player is doing that, and when you see why a player is doing that, you could see his back foot big game becoming stronger. You could see his power hitting becoming stronger. When something like that happens, it's time you start respecting, giving the player the respect he deserves, and not still hold on to their previous beliefs on him and previous doubts on him. So I think the number 7 is Ravindra Jadeja. The thing with this is Ravindra Jadeja's limited overs bowling is always something that's being criticized. But do you love to keep in mind that the World Cup is going to be played in India? And World Cup will not be played in stadiums like indoor or the smaller, newer stadiums where the deck is flat and the boundaries are short. World Cup will be played in traditional venues like Chennai. Or Hyderabad or even Kolkata. These are venues that have bigger boundaries. Relatively speaking, you may be watching the World Cup, Australian World Cup now. They're not going to be as big, but some of them are going to be bigger than the normal subcontinent grounds that you see in Pakistan or even in India and some of these Chinnaswamy stadiums. Chinnaswamy is traditional, but it still has smaller boundaries. Chinnaswamy or indoor that way. You'll have big size, big stadiums, proper stadiums, and in addition to that, the benefit of these we're playing World Cups in these World Cup matches in these venues is that they'll not be flat. The deck will not be flat. It'll always offer some grip to the some hold at least to the spinners. You might have noticed. I mean, even Ahmedabad may not be traditional, but I think it's one of the biggest venues and it's one of the most important cricketing venues in India at the moment. And if you've watched Washington Sundar ball there against West Indies, you'll know what I'm speaking about. It's not easy handling quality finger spinners on these decks on Kolkata, on Chennai. If you play an ODI at 3 o'clock at Chennai, and you better you want to think twice about playing Ravindra Jadeja there. That's the same way. The same applies to Ahmedabad as well. So these are the conditions that you'll have to keep in mind. So in these conditions, Ravindra Jadeja's monotonous finger spin bowling, all the same length, same speed, all of that is it's considered, and all that is taken and it's accepted, and even considering all of those, Ravindra Jadeja will add value. So that's number seven for me. And for the backup for this spot, I think we'll be working with Akshar Patel, obviously. I think Akshar Patel, I like Akshar Patel's bowling in subcontinental conditions. And I think as far as batting is concerned, I think he's more of a full length, slow ball, and spin power rater. But that's not something we'll find a lot of value for in Australia. I think that's what people are figuring out right now. But in India, there is value. You could float him up. And he's also improved his pace power rating when it's full in length, when it's good, when it's in good length. May not be when it's cranked up, when someone like Nokia balls, when someone like Lockie Ferguson balls, it still be a problem. But that's fine. When someone is so good with the ball, you can manage with it. And number eight spot, I think this is where it gets interesting. There's a lot of focus on leg spin, but I think the value really comes in when you extend batting depth through an off spinner, because there should be someone who complements Jadeja. Leg spinner will not complement Jadeja as well as say Washington Sundar or Ravichandran Ashwin can. And with the benefit of with these two is they also extend the batting depth. So what I want to do is have an off spin all rounder or an off spin bowler who can bat, and also this spot does a couple of things for me. One, it complements Jadeja to the T. It's a perfect complement that you can get, and the other thing is that it also extends the batting depth. When batting depth is an important thing. It's often seen as the number of balls faced by number eight, the silly definition of batting depth. I think it's going out of picture right now, thankfully, because there is a lot of campaigns against it. I've personally done a lot of campaigns and I've shown how stupid it is. It's not the number of balls faced by number eight. It's a cushion that it gives the batters at number four, number three, number five, and it dictates how many risks they can take and how frequently they can take. If they have Chahal at number seven, or if they have Bhuvneshwar at number seven, or if they have someone like Mohammad Siraj at number eight, all of these positions I'm referring to number eight. When they have in the number four and number five batters, for example, they'll be mindful of that. They will not be taking as many risks as they should, or as many chances as they should, to put India in the position that they should be, to put Indian scoreboard in a position where it should be. If the pass score is 320, they'll be moving at 290 to 300. They'll be keeping in mind that they'll have to get to 290 and 300. Let's see what happens at the death for the extra 20 runs. But when you have Washington Sundar or a Ravichandran Ashwin at 8, you are starting to create some depth there, and then the batter will move to targeting 320. I think that's where the difference comes in. The problem here is that Ravichandran Ashwin is the older one. Is the clock is ticking, so that's you'll normally have him as a backup and work with the younger one, the one that's coming up. But again, Washington Sundar, I see. I think I play a lot of season fantasy games, and it's almost like every time I pick up Washington Sundar, I get screwed up because of unavailability. He gets injured. For some other reason, he's either unavailable directly, or he's injured during the season. Just something happens with him that it's very difficult to get Washington Sundar on the field. So this is a concern. So I think what India has to do is they'll have to decide who is their number one spinner, whether it's Ravichandran Ashwin or Washington Sundar, and closely work with the other one, because any of these two players could go out of the picture at any point. One is older, one's clock is ticking, the other is younger, but even more brittle than the older one. So there is a tricky part, but when you're having two options, I think there is value in working with it. The other problem with this one is that, of course, if they are both injured, you could always bring in Chahal at any point you want. The other problem with that is that you have a number of options for left arm spinner, all rounders. For example, if Ravindra Jadeja gets injured, you could replace him with Akshar Patel. If Akshar Patel is injured, you could replace him with Shabazz Ahmed. But what will you do for off spin? There is only two options, so that's the risk. That's that. But I think it's worth taking. Imagine a team like England that has a number of left-handers in middle order, or even New Zealand, Sri Lanka, all of these teams, and I mean, imagine them having to face Ravindra Jadeja and Ashwin or Sundar on a Chepak Turner mind you, Eden Gardens deck can be tricky in ODIs. We've seen it a number of times, so that's something. And even Mumbai can assist. These are decks you'll have to keep in mind that Ahmedabad, for example, you'll have to keep in mind that you're going to play World Cups on these traditional stadiums, not in the smaller ones. So that's my idea. So now I think we've checked all these boxes. Hardik Pandya, there is no backup man. There is no way. If Hardik Pandya is injured, you'll have to replace him with an extra batter. It could be Shreyas Iyer. I think Suryakumar Yadav is going to come in anyway. I'm interested to see who's going to lose his spot. Maybe I think Rahul is going to go up, and Rahul and who else? Rohit opens, Kohli at three, and Pant at four. Who is keeping wickets? No one's keeping wickets, no? Yes, he's going to keep wickets. That's a good thing because we need Rishabh Pant. Rishabh Pant FC. So there's something. And what will he have at five? You'll have Surya Kumar Yadav. So again, is Shreya Iyer going to be the unlucky one? Because I think he deserves a spot. He has done enough in the role. I think he's also one of India's top players of spin bowling and traditional spin bowling. That's something you like require a lot of in for a World Cup in India. So we'll have to see how India works that out. I do not want to be in Rahul Dravid's shoes right now, but you know that this is what makes this World Cup exciting for me. You look at you'll have to fight between KL Rahul, Pant, and Iyer and Sky for what three spots. I think that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot about the quality that India has right now. That's saying how India goes into the tournament. India are firm favorites. It's a great chance to seal a World Cup, and I hope they seal it as well. So that's let's end this, and let's probably move to KL Rahul now. Here is the thing about KL Rahul, because when there is a point of time when you didn't need range down the order. The ball was changed. We had two new balls, so the balls they weren't getting old. So what you could do is the bowlers were pretty ordinary. I think there was a period during 2012 to 2015. I hated cricket. I mean, I hated limited overs cricket like anything. There was no innovation happening, and it was Brendan McCullum who changed it. But at that point, we don't see a lot of New Zealand matches. We see a lot of India matches, India oriented matches. But after a point of time, when you started New Zealand match, following New Zealand match, you saw something different happening. There's this bolt bowling 7 to 8 overs in the first 20 to 30. I think I've already talked about this. I do not want to bore you. So here's the thing, that period was really bad, and in that period you could do with just full length hitters down the order, full length, or just power hitters down the order, because there's a lot of skill involved in bowling. These people running in and bowling at 135, 140 kph. It was a worst period for cricket, and I so fell out of love with the game. And then T20 has brought in a lot of different skill sets. Now you see a 145 kph bowler almost in everything. They're cranking it up. They're bowling all sorts of lengths, all sorts of lines, and all sorts of variations. So you need a combination of skills to crack lower middle order batting at the moment. So you cannot just crack it with Pant and Hardik Pandya power hitters, or brute power hitters. You need some bit of range and some bit of class down the order there, and that's where I think KL Rahul plays a role. And if you notice, this is also the reason why there is a certain number of opening batters that have started to seal the spot. Now, if you see Tom Latham for New Zealand, and there was a stint that even someone like. If you say Hayden Markham, it's not the same format, but there is a reason Hayden Markham is finding his feet at number four in T20s. Because, for example, there are some situations where a couple of wickets fall early, and in that situation, you cannot just keep powering the bowlers. You'll have to work with the range. For example, if ball keeps hitting the same length, you could just cover drive him. If you could just cut him, you could just pull him. Traditionally, do all of these things. It become it, 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 it what it does is it forces opponents to have variety of skills represented in their bowling unit to crack your batting order. For example, if you just give me, if you just line up your batting order with full length power hitters, it's easier for me as a bowling captain. I know what to do. I know what to do. I'm going to hit them hard. I'm going to give them the type of spin that they are uncomfortable against, and I'm going to hit them hard with pace. So that's what I'm going to do. But if you put KL Rahul at the other end with Hardik Pandya, what am I going to do? I'll have to bowl both. I'll have to counter Hardik with pace. I'll have to count KL with something like slow ball variations, full length variations, and it's something that he is weak again. So what it requires me as an opposition bowling captain is that I need to have a lot more skill, a lot more different types of bowling types in my attack. So this is why I believe that there is a variety of bowling styles that's required in a bowling unit to crack an opposition batting order that has KL Rahul, Hardik Pandya, and Rishabh Pant at 4, 5, and 6. Then someone with no KL Rahul there. If you just put a traditional number 5 there, or a traditional power hitter there, or if you could say, if you put Pant at 5 and Hardik at 6, it's not going to be as difficult for me as if I have Pant, Hardik, and sandwiched between in between the two is KL being sandwiched between the two. So that's something that's to crack that batting order in Indian conditions. Oh my God, I do not want to be there. You see that's the thing. No, there was before this dull period. There's a time when we had older balls. At that point, there was a lot of value for players like Hussey, players like Michael Bevan, the traditional lower middle order players. I mean, they were not accelerators, they're not power hitters, but they worked with singles and twos. They played the car drives, they played the straight drives. You cannot bring mid off up, mid on. They'll just torture you. You cannot bowl the power hitters length by bringing in your infield. They'll just cover drive you. You cannot bowl the wider one. They'll just cover drive you. You cannot bowl the wide short ball. They'll just cut you. So imagine when you're not having cuts and drives in the lower middle order, as an opposition captain, it gets easier. So that's my point. So there was a period that existed, and then there was a period that didn't, that wasn't required as much, but it is again coming back, and that's why players like Latham are cracking the lower middle order role. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, there's a reason why Stokes is so successful in the in the middle to lower middle order role for South Africa, for England. So, for England, with Stokes and Butler, there is a reason why they are dangerous. They're not just powerful; they also have the classical strokes. They can cut, they can drive. So this is the kind of mix that I would want in my team's lower middle order. So yeah, that's what I think it's sorted out. We will end with this question for now. It's not going to be one question per episode, but it's when the question is good enough, when the question is it requires such amount of time, we'll keep it to one question per episode. I think that's also easier for viewers. So yeah, thank you for joining. Keep posting your questions. Use hashtag I'll answers, and I'll pick them and I'll answer them. You could do it either in my YouTube comment section or on Twitter. I'll search for it, and we'll find we'll answer them all at a time that we can. Thank you.